morning and happy Sunday to you all. I'm glad you could be with us this morning. Welcome any guests that are with us. Always happy to see new faces around Holy Family Cathedral. As we come into this season or this month of November, I find that this is really a beautiful time of the year for us as we are in this new season and there's tons of different colors happening. The leaves are changing to their various colors. The weather is changing, hence even last night, the cooler weather that comes in, the storms that come in. I always love a good thunderstorm. But also there's even the beauty in the liturgical season that's happening for us. As just last Friday, we were celebrating the solemnity of All Saints' Day. And then the day after, yesterday, Saturday, we were celebrating the commemoration of all the faithfully departed, All Souls' Day. We were praying for all those who have gone before us. Kind of a leftover from that All Souls' Day, as you see, is on the St. Joseph's altar, all of the red candles over there, each one being lit and signifying somebody from this parish, from Holy Family Cathedral, that has passed away during this past year, as we continue to pray for them. The distinguished candle over there, that is the one up above the tabernacle over there, is for Bishop Slattery, as he passed away just a couple months ago. So we continue to pray for all of the faithfully departed during this month of November. Even in the back with our cross back there, you see that it is draped with a black veil and then also some purple candles. And then the list that you see on the table there is the list of these people that have passed away. I invite you, even after Mass, to go to visit these two places. You're welcome to walk up to St. Joseph's altar over here to be able to see the names and to be able to pray for these people by name, but then also their names are in the back of the church at the crucifix. But there's wisdom behind all of this, which I think just adds to the great beauty of this time of year. As with the changing of the season comes with the leaves changing colors and the leaves dying. It comes to us as a reminder of death, as we are just praying for those who have died this past year. But then not also that, there's great wisdom in that this is the end of the liturgical calendar for us for this year. Advent, beginning of Advent, always marks the new liturgical year for us. And so even as this end of this liturgical calendar is coming so soon, so near to us, it also then that way is signifying to us kind of a death that's taking place. And so as this month of November, we're praying for the beloved dead, it comes in various reminders to us of the beautiful wisdom that the church provides to us. Even in these readings that are given to us this Sunday, great wisdom is coming to it with all of this background knowledge of what we're experiencing. As this readings is coming down to reminding us of the bare necessities for us of discipleship. You know, the trees, they're shedding their leaves. They're coming down to their bare necessities, if we want to say it that way. And so these readings are encouraging us to be able to do the same, to come down to what is the bare necessity in everything that we ought to be doing as disciples. This gospel for us, from the Gospel of Mark, we hear it in one of the Gospels, but it's the Lord commanding us to love the Lord alone, to love Him with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. That's the bare necessity for us as disciples in everything we do, brothers and sisters. This gospel is calling to us to a greater realization of this, that in everything we do, we ought to be loving God. You take the whole book of canon law, if I put it up here, how thick that is, or if you go through all of the precepts of the church, through the Old Testament of all the laws they were given, comes down to this bare necessity, to love God above all else. It's a calling for us to serve Him with our entire mind, including our very thoughts, including our decisions that we make, including the conversations that we have with people, including even the entertainment that we go out and to seek. It's It's a calling for us to serve him with our whole soul. Be attentive to how the Lord is present to us throughout the day, not just in moments of prayer that we set aside and elevate our minds to him, but throughout the entire day to come to a greater realization, a greater attentiveness to his presence to us. It's a calling for us to serve him with our whole hearts, to be conforming our very affections and conforming our attractions to that which is holy. Not just that, though, but to be seeking God in our relationships, to be seeking him in our hobbies, to be seeking him in our interests, that he is involved in every one of these aspects in our life. It's even a call to be serving him with our whole strength in the daily tasks that we find ourselves doing, whether that is at our job, whether that's at the domestic home, domestic church with our families, to be seeking him in these daily tasks, and then also then to be involving ourselves in a larger community, such as a community of this, the Holy Family Cathedral, to be finding our Lord present in all of this as well. Brothers and sisters, there's so much that this call to love our Lord above all else implies. But to help boil it down to a simple question for us as we reflect upon this, we can ask ourselves, does this lead me closer to God? If I think this way, if I talk that way, if I enjoy these things, or if I have that relationship, is it going to lead me closer to God? Is it going to allow me to love him even more than what I do now? And then if at any time in this examination that you do with these questions, that you are saying no to something, then maybe it's time to shed that thing off, to let go of it, to get back to those bare necessities of discipleship, to love our Lord above all else. But that's not all, brothers and sisters. It actually even goes further, a step further in this examination. So we can't forget the other part of this that our Lord is commanding to us, to love your neighbor as yourself. And so that further question to us that we can ask ourselves is, does love of God lead me to a greater love of neighbor? Does the love of God lead me to a greater love the people around me? We cannot divorce these two realities because they're so intimately connected with each other. See, back in the day, you had the Pharisees who would have emphasized daily purity laws, emphasizing observance of the Sabbath, of synagogue participation, but also then emphasizing a separation from the Gentiles, emphasizing a separation from those who were perceived as unclean people. They did all of that to express their love for God. Even had the Essenes community who promoted an even greater extreme practice of all of these things, an extreme practice in prayer, in fasting, in purity, to likewise to express their love to God. But if you look at these two groups here, it was very disordered amongst them because it disconnected them from loving their neighbor, disconnecting them from having that relationship with them and bringing them into the love of God. Brothers and sisters, in the same sense, we cannot exempt ourselves from our responsibility to our brothers and sisters, to be caring for them because of our engagement in religious practices. Let me say that again. We cannot be exempting ourselves from our responsibility for caring for those in need because of our religious practices. So, brothers and sisters, this is, again, a season for us to be shedding. A season as we're coming to the end of the liturgical calendar to be getting back to the bare necessities, to be loving God, our Lord, alone, and to be loving our neighbor as ourselves. I encourage us to be able to take some time this month to reflect upon these things, to kind of do a little bit of an examination of conscience in my own life, in my own discipleship, to ask myself, is there anything I do that does not lead me closer to God and to my neighbor? Not just to God, but to my neighbor. But also to reflect upon, does this include any of the ways that I do certain religious practices? I think that can be challenging for us. Is there any certain religious practices that I do that's cutting me off from loving and caring for my neighbor? And again, if so, if we identify any parts of our life that this is true, let us have that ability to be able to shed it off. And then to be able to pray to our Lord, Lord, teach me how to love.